Landscape. Some excitement over there last weekend. Sorry.
Barry, I know we asked you this before, but how has Luke even further elevated his game so far this year?
Just works. He works, and the guys around him are playing well, and you know he's really tuned into what's going on and really driven to be really good right now. And he's doing it.
What did Khalil show you guys in the weeks leading up to get a career high in carries?
Well, I mean, last year he flashed a lot, you know, and just was not super healthy throughout the year, and he's a good player, and good things happen when he touches the ball, so he needs to touch the ball.
It seems like he's very decisive in what he's doing out there, and he's quick enough to make a defender miss. How does that kind of fit in well with what you guys do offensively?
Well, I think, you know, you're describing a good football player, so any good football player at any position goes well with what we're trying to do. But he has good vision, and he runs with authority, and he's really grown in his game, you know, as far as his knowledge and football IQ, just from, he's a very intelligent kid, but just from being here, you know, for the training he gets from Thad and Coach B in our system, he's really matured nicely.
Barry, Brett said that TJ was repping with the first team at center all week, but first start on the road in the Big Ten at a really key offensive line position. How do you feel like TJ handled himself?
I think he deserves some praise for sure, and it is helpful that we had a week, you know,
Sure.
kind of to prepare for that. But I had full confidence. We've gone into every game with him being that, you know, that guy, and so, you know, but I think he handled himself very well, and the functional aspect of what we did was very good, and so I thought he stepped up and certainly deserves some mention.
What makes Caden maybe a good weapon in like the short passing games in the flat or on screens? Like what's now he had the big touchdown at USC, but he'll got a couple good ones.
Yeah, but Caden's a good player. You know, like whether it's running or catching, he's got really good hands, and he's very decisive when he gets on the perimeter, and he's going to run through an arm tackle when it's one-on-one out there in space. And made a nice play the other day on early down to your point, and two plays. And he's a good natural receiver of the ball. He just has good vision when he gets out in the open field.
Yes. Historically, when obviously good players help, but when a quarterback and receiver are on the same page, like Luke and Hank are, and have a pretty high chemistry, what does that allow for them to do out there on the field?
I think it just lets you play with confidence. I mean, it's. I think Luke has a lot of trust in a lot of those guys, but he seemingly has shown up a lot with Hank in particular, just where the ball's being located and or thrown to. And Hank has a unique way of getting open, and he plays very calm, and he's kind of, for the most part, always in the right spots, and so that earns trust of the quarterback and obviously the coordinator. And I think that's why you're seeing the production. He's playing at a really high level right now.
You go on. I don't know if you saw Ohio State's defense last year at all, but how does this group compare to that one?
Well, I did just from TV lens.
Right,
you know, I mean,
right.
obviously I watched the playoffs and the national championship game, and you know, I think it goes without saying that for a lot of years they've had a really good defense and they've had really good players, and you know, I think if you know this particular point in the season, numbers don't really lie. Sometimes early in the season they will lie, and you know, if you just look at the raw numbers, you know, and then you turn the film on, you see you have an elite defense that's being coached at elite level, and creates a considerable challenge for us on Saturday. A lot of respect for the way they play and the players they play with and the scheme they're doing it with. They're a very good outfit.
When you look at Ohio State's defense, what makes them elite? Is it like really good pass rush or just really good coverage? Like what stands out about that defense?
They can keep going, you know. You know, so whatever you want to name off, you know, they rush the passer well, they cover well, they blitz well, they play base well, they play multiple fronts. Outstanding defense, and they got a lot of different variations of what they do and play confident in it, and really impressive.
What stood out maybe about Luke's decision making? Obviously a pretty impressive touchdown to interception ratio through 6 games.
Well, he's just in tune with. I think he's just in tune with what we're doing, and you know, we're comfortable with each other, and he knows the system very well. Communicates with me very clearly during the course of the week about what he likes, what he doesn't like, what he wants more of, what he wants less of, and I think that's always important part of the relationship. And but I think at the end of the day, he's just feeling and seeing the field very well, and kind of knows feels the coverage and the rotations pretty well for the most part. It hasn't been, perfect by any means, but he does see the game very well, and that affords him to play with a great deal of confidence.
Barry, you mentioned Hank's growth, obviously Colin has really emerged here too. You guys talked about them all offseason. What's the role of Justin Stepp and those guys taking steps forward?
Yeah, I thought if you just look at the number of guys that caught the ball on Saturday that impacted the game, and we made some really key plays and some phenomenal catches, and had several guys step up and do it. And that's not surprising to us because we've seen that and we've talked a lot about that. Some games it unfolds and some games it doesn't. And of course, when you're only throwing the ball, we only threw 22. At least called, the ball got in the air 22 times. Called some more passes than that, but there's not a lot of room for multiple catches. But Kafka Jones made a huge play right before halftime, and Hudson Clement, his catch, he made a phenomenal catch. Ashton made a huge play, turned the game around. Good catch and run. So obviously, obviously Justin and I, we go back a ways, and when we had the opportunity to bring him in here, I knew what we were getting. Coach felt like he knew what he was getting just based on the feedback from me and from interviewing him and spending time with him and talking to others, and now being with him through almost 2 seasons now. You see that he has an impact on his room, just like all of our position coaches on both sides of the ball do. And that's what we do it for, and he has a unique way of pumping belief in guys and having good morale in that room, and them enjoying being coached by him, and so I couldn't be more proud of those guys in those rooms that have not done as the numbers haven't been what that they may have wanted it to be at this point in the season, but they're impacting the game in a real positive way, and we're going to need more of that.
What stood out to you about the execution on that last drive at the end of the first half and your ability to get down in field goal range?
Well, that was a big drive, and we kind of eased into it because we were going to start with the ball in the third quarter, and we kind of eased into it and then popped a run, and really just made Luke made a nice scramble to Alex, and then we work a lot on situational football, and we used a play that we worked and practiced a lot, and got a toe tap sideline and set up an extra almost 12 to 15 yards for the field goal. David knocked it in. That was big. That was a big situational football execution right before half. It was the players. The cool part for me was watching the film and seeing our linemen after we threw the ball and they saw him get out of bounds, like fist pumping. That was pretty cool for me, because they know that those yards were critical. They knew what we were trying to do, and I watched the film on that. I was like, that was kind of a good feeling to watch that and see those guys. I think I saw Melvin and a couple other guys, fist pump. Like, we got, we executed that particular play because it's a very specific play and presentation that's for that moment, whether it be in the half or end of game, and they know what that means, and they did it well.
Pretty good offense. How important was complementary football? Seems like you guys were able to run the clock out on them in the second half.
Yeah, I mean, that's the way we have to play like that. That's the way we play. It's our formula. We took advantage of our defense creating, a turnover early in the game and popped them on a sudden change touchdown that really kind of flipped the momentum. So that's complementary football at its finest. Like our defense created a turnover, we get the ball, boom, we score, change the momentum of the game. And we have a team that really cares for each other and that understands how we operate. It requires us playing complementary, and each of those games will take a different shape and form of that. And ultimately, it's our job to score one more point than the other team. And but I like the way we fed off of each other. And and there was a point in time in the second half we felt like the game that we were kind of in control of the game, and we were purposeful about trying to take some clock. The disappointing part for me is we didn't punch those moments in the end zone. Or those drives in the end zone. We did some decent things, some good things in the run game in kind of a 4-minute mode operation, but not enough to finish the drive, and we've got to be better in that mode.
Every game is big, but when you have the number one team come to town, it's a big task. What's that mean for you guys, or what's this opportunity like for you guys?
Well, I would, I don't know how many times I've played against the number one team, a handful of times probably, and obviously, fresh off last year, had an opportunity, and so it doesn't come around a whole lot of times. I've been coaching for 25 years or so. I never even actually know what that number is, but seems like maybe more than that, but you know, you don't get a lot of chances to do it. The cool part, I think, for us is that, you know, our players have put us in position at winning 5 games and playing well in those 5 games that it adds a little something to it. 2 ranked teams playing, and you know, historically, I think there's some numbers there that are pretty astonishing, you know, as far as just how many opportunities there's been where Illinois has been ranked and playing and hosting a number 1 ranked team. So at the end of the day, our guys know it's another Big Ten battle, and ultimately the rankings that matter are the ones at the end of the year, towards the end of the season. Our guys know that, but you know, I think everybody's going to be super excited. There'll be a lot of great energy around the week this week for preparation. You could feel it in the air last night already in our meetings. You can sense it in the building with the guys coming in on their own today, and I would assume you would feel it all week. Shoot, I feel it. You know, it's a great opportunity. It's going to take a great effort from us playing a great football team. But I know our guys are excited about the opportunity, the challenge. They put themselves in a good position, and we got an opportunity to hopefully go try to take advantage of Saturday morning. But it's a build up, it's a process. You can't rush to Saturday. We got to prepare and go earn it in our preparation.
Barry, I know you.
TJ, could you walk us through the challenge that presented of that week of preparation, and like how you guys navigated that challenge and got ready for that?
Well, that's why you practice for all these years, and TJ's been snapping the ball and playing center for a significant amount of time here in the program, and he's very smart, and understands the game well. And so, you know, I've been a part of weeks before where, you know, that was a stressful week where you were replacing your center, and I've been a part of that before where you're like, man, I don't know, you know, you see the ball going everywhere, or you know, you see the exchanges being a problem, and there was just none of that. And so because of that, you know, I think we all, starting with Luke, had a great deal of confidence. In fact, you know, that's one of the things we tried to do, is we were trying to kind of vet the call sheet a little bit of like, hey, when we're under, or we're in the shotgun, or when we're in this moment, are you comfortable here? He was just like, hey coach, look, we're good. We're 100% good, and no matter what you want to do, shotgun, underneath, speed breaks, whatever you want to do, like we're good. And so I think that was represented, you know, our confidence level and what was going on, and with TJ being in there, did a great job for us.
Barry, I know the idea is obviously every drive to get 6 points, but as a play caller, like when you cross the 40, because David is so effective than a normal college kicker, does it enter your mind that, hey, I think we got 3 points here, let's or is that not coming to equation?
Usually only end of half or end of game. You know,
Okay.
I did last week when we played USC.
Sure.
You know, I was like, yeah, we get down here to the coach is pretty good about drawing that line, and we communicate really thoroughly during game day of, hey, if we get to the 30 and end of half, or if we get to the 35, or we know what that line is.
Sure.
David's his line backs up a long ways, you know, and but no, I don't think a lot about that, you know, unless it's in those end of half, end of game moments. Our job is to try to go punch the thing in the end zone, which we didn't do a very good job of the other day.
Okay.
We left a lot of meat on the bone there, and but it's good to have a guy that when you do fall short and you don't execute well, or the other side makes a play, or you get a penalty, or whatever those things, combination of those things that happened the other day that kept us from getting 7s, or opportunity to get touchdowns, to send a unit out there that's got the confidence that unit has is a good feeling.
We've seen slot receivers in your offense be very productive here in your past. What is it about that position you feel like unlocks anything, if at all, in your offense beyond having good players?
Well, I mean, we're an 11 personnel based team, so there's 3 of them out there, and we do a lot of variations of where people line up, so there's some flexibility. Not everybody's system has flexibility to put their players wherever they want to put them in. So I just would think that, I think if you just look back at our offense, going back to even UTSA, there's been a pretty significant balance, from the receiver position across the board, whether it's been the X or the Z or the F. If you just look at numbers, there's been a pretty consistent consistency there, all positions. And so inevitably all those seasons there's been a guy or two emerge that you're like, okay, I gotta, like we knew going into the game a few years ago that we got to get Isaiah the ball, like how we're going to do that. And a lot of the catches and production happen kind of vicariously through the execution of the offense, and then there's some that it's more designed, like get it to this guy, you know, and there's some of that going on with Hank right now. There's some get it to this guy. But a lot of the things that have been generated from him are just happening naturally through the execution of the offense. And so I think just the long answer to that, which I just gave you, is just like, it's just kind of happened through us being balanced and being multiple formations and isolating different guys and attacking the slot based on coverages. Sometimes we attack the perimeter of the defense when the coverage gets a little bit more compacted, and when the coverage is a little bit more spread out, you know, on the perimeter, then it's easier to attack the ball internally.
All good?
Yep. Thanks.
That's good.
Yeah.